Tonight we turn away from the missiles and strikes. We step into a quieter battlefield, one with no smoke, no rubble, no headlines screaming breaking news. But make no mistake, this battlefield decides who feeds, who trades and who leads. The war here is fought with tariffs, patents and promises. The armies are negotiators and the stakes, trillions of dollars in the balance of power in the 21st century. I'm talking about India and the United States, two democracies, two giant economies caught in a tug of war between protectionism and partnership. And this week there is movement. For the first time in months, negotiators in New Delhi and Washington sat down face to face and called their talks positive, forward-looking and constructive. Strong words, but what do they actually mean? Let's break it down. India and the US have been trade partners for decades. America is one of India's biggest export markets. India, in turn, is a key buyer of US energy and technology. Now you would think this makes them natural allies in commerce, but in reality, it's not the fact. Consider this, the US wants more access to India's market, in agriculture, in dairy, in technology. Washington says New Delhi protects its farmers too much, blocks genetically modified food and imposes tariffs that are too high. India, on the other hand, says America does not understand the ground reality. This is not just about markets, it's about livelihoods. Over 600 million Indians depends on agriculture. Can New Delhi simply open the floodgates and let American produce wipe them out? The answer is no. This is the conflict, a battle between protection and liberalization, between survival and excess. Now, add fuel to the fire. Over the last year, tariffs became weapons. The US imposed reciprocal duties on Indian goods. Washington said New Delhi was buying discounted Russian oil, thumbing its nose at American sanctions, and so penalties followed. Tariffs shot up on a wide range of Indian exports, from steel to chemicals, from textile to leather. Some levies hit 50% tariff. India retaliated, duties on American farm products, medical devices, even Harley Davidson motorcycles. The message was clear, if you hit us, we hit back. At one point, this looked like a trade war in the making. Headlines in Washington asked, and I quote, "Is India the new China? A competitor too big to ignore, too independent to control?" But pause. This week, something changed. US Assistant Trade Representative Brendan Lynch flew to New Delhi. He sat down with Rajesh Agrawal, India's Commerce Secretary. Their joint statement was striking, surprising. Both sides agreed to intensify efforts for a trade deal. Both said the talks were positive and forward-looking. So I would ask, why the sudden warmth between New Delhi and Washington? There are two reasons. First, China. Washington wants counterweight to Beijing. India is the only economy large enough, democratic enough, and stable enough to play that role. Cutting India out with tariffs makes no sense strategically. Second, political timing. In Washington, President Trump is in campaign mode. He needs foreign policy wins. In New Delhi, Prime Minister Modi is heading into state election and eventually 2029 elections. Both leaders need to show their people that they can deliver, not just on security but on prosperity. Trade talks provide that opportunity. So the mood music has shifted from confrontation to cautious cooperation. But don't be fooled by smiles at the negotiation table. The tough issues remain. Agriculture is the first. India will not and cannot compromise here. It has drawn what negotiators call a red line. That means no American dairy flooding Indian markets, no GM food on Indian shelves, no dismantling of price supports that keep millions of Indian farmers afloat. Next is intellectual property. The US pharmaceutical lobbies wants stronger patent protection in India. They say Indian companies copy drugs too easily, hurting American innovators. India says its generic medicine industry saves lives across the developing world. Strengthening patents could make life-saving drugs unaffordable. And third, digital trade. Washington wants free flow of data across borders. India insists on data localization. In plain English, India wants sensitive user data to stay in India. The US says this stifles innovation and hurts American tech giants. These are not small disagreements, they cut to the heart of sovereignty, affordability, and control. So, why bother? Why not just walk away? Because the cost of failure are enormous. If tariffs stay high, India loses competitiveness in American market. That means fewer exports, fewer jobs, and weaker growth. For America, failure means alienating the fastest growing large economy in the world. It means ceding ground to China, whose goods could step in to fill gaps in America. It means higher prices for American consumers who depend on Indian pharma, textiles, and IT services. In short, both sides loses if this deal collapses. To understand how trade fight shape geopolitics, let's rewind. Remember the Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act of 1930? The US raised tariffs on thousands of goods, trying to protect domestic industry during the Great Depression. What followed? Retaliation. Countries slapped tariffs back. Global trade collapsed. The depression deepened. Extremists rose in Europe and the world marched toward war. That's the cost of protectionism gone wrong. Leaders in New Delhi and Washington know this, which is why, despite all the chest thumping, they are still talking. And here's the bigger picture. Global trade is being weaponized. Sanctions on Russia, tariffs on China, restrictions on semiconductors. Every country is choosing. Who do we trade with? Who do we punish? And who do we depend on? India is no exception. It buys cheap oil from Russia because it suits its economy. It invests in America because it needs technology. And it sells to Europe because markets are markets. Strategic autonomy, that's New Delhi's mantra. America, meanwhile, is recalibrating. The Trump administration has swung from tariffs to talks, from confrontation to charm. Why? Because it cannot afford to push India away, not when China is challenging the global order. So the India-US trade talks are not just about butter and barley, or dairy and data. They are about the future of alliances. Can this deal be done? Yes, but it will require creativity. One option for India. India could increase energy imports from the US, giving Washington an economic win without opening its farm sector. Second, India could allow genetically modified feed for animals but keep genetically modified food for out of human consumptions. That way, American farmers get a market, but Indian consumers stay protected. And third, phased tariffs cuts. Instead of overnight liberalization, third, phased tariffs cut. Instead of overnight liberalization, both sides could agree to gradual reduction tied to performance and safeguards. These are the compromises that transform deadlocks into deals. Think about it. A fighter jet costs billion. A war drains treasuries. But a trade deal, it makes money for both sides. Yet, ironically, it is harder to negotiate than a ceasefire. Why? Because it touches ordinary lives. Farmers in Bihar, dairy workers in Wisconsin, coders in Bengaluru, lobbyists in Washington, everyone has skin in the game. That's why these talks are slow, and that's why they matter. What does this mean for you? If you are in India, a successful deal could make America and American tech cheaper, create more jobs in IT, and bring new investment in energy. If you are in the US, it could mean affordable medicines, cheaper textiles, smoother outsourcing. Failure, on the other hand, means costlier goods, more inflation, and an unpredictable supply chain. The world has already tasted that during the pandemic. Nobody wants a repeat. So here we are, India and America, friends, rivals, partners, competitors, bound by democracy, separated by interest, standing at a crossroads. The question is simple: will they keep trading blows with tariffs, or will they trade goods and ideas instead? History tells us this: wars destroy, trade builds. One closes doors, the other opens them. One breeds suspicion, the other creates trust. The choice is not abstract, it's real. It is urgent and it is being made right now in air-conditioned rooms in New Delhi and Washington. Because in the end, the world remembers two kinds of leaders. Those who build walls and those who build bridges. Which will India and the United States choose? That is story tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Shubham and you're watching the News Point. Until next time.